Well, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We have a majority of members of the committee here, myself and Councilmember Bullock, or excuse me, Councilmember Baker. Councilman Bullock should be here shortly. And we also have Council President Litton and Councilmember Marks. Thank you for all joining us. We have members of administration, Public Works Planning, Deputy Clerk, Haneen, welcome. Maureen Bach, thank you for being here. Oh, and Jason Schackner. Councilman Schackner from Ward 2 is also here. My councilman. We have one item on our agenda tonight, and that is to discuss and finalize some of these pool fees, all the pool fees, as a matter of fact, and get those recommended tonight for adoption. We have some new adjustments from the school district, from the Recreation Department, that is attached to the resolution, and those are in the agenda. Those are also reflected in the spreadsheet that I had started on. We had on the screens earlier at the last meeting. So the big change, basically the non-resident and resident fees for individual admittance to the pools, it looks as though those have stayed the same from when we discussed at the meeting, the last meeting. So I'll kind of quickly run through those. Looks like we're going to be doing $2 and $5 respectively, resident, non-resident for 3 to 5. From 6 to 17, we'll have $5 and $10, resident, non-resident. From 18 to 59 years old, we'll have a $7 and $11 fee. And for 60 plus, we'll have a $2 for resident and $6 for non-resident as our new rates. So that's what's reflected in the resolution. The big changes came from our meeting. The school district wanted to, they took our thoughts into consideration, and they wanted to make sure that the non-resident and resident increases were paritied. Basically, that if we're going to raise rates for residents by $30, we're going to do the same for non-residents. And those are what the new fee structure looks like for the season passes for both Beck and Foster Pool. So I'll just quickly run down the list for 16 plus and 3 to 5, that those 3 to 5 year olds and 60 plus happen to be the same, just to keep it a little bit simpler. For residents, that's going to be $10. For non-residents, it's going to be $70 for that season pass for those folks. One person, 70 and 110. Two people, 110 and 180. 3 people, 150 and 250. 4 people and up, 190 for residents and 320 for non-residents. So that's what we have in the resolution. I'll stop there. If anybody has any, if any members of the committee or council members have any comments, please, the floor is yours. Mr. Baker?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It looks like Mr. Walters here from the school district.
Welcome.
And thank you for laying all that out, and appreciate, during the course of the week, we also received more information from the administration on some of the pool costs, and so appreciate that collaboration. And I think on the resident fees, as the chair talked about, I think are good. The one area I think we could, I would appreciate a discussion amongst the committee and perhaps other council members that are here. It's in the non-resident season pass rates. I would, I think we should consider raising them a little bit, and namely, if you're a resident of, for example, Westlake, you could join your pool for the same price you could join Lakewood's pool. And not to say that that's a bad thing. I think it's just something we should talk about, and perhaps inch those up 10 or 20 bucks, so that it would be, for one person 120 or 130, and then correspondingly go up 70 each one, like we've done what's in the proposal. I would be in favor of something like that, but interested in what other committee members think about that.
Okay, so just to get a sense, so for one person, it would then be, instead of 110 for the non-resident, it would be 120. For the 2 people, it would be, instead of 180, 190, and then kind of go up, just add $10 to every. Is that your suggestion?
Basically, yeah. I mean, I see I think that there is some, I'm trying to provide a benefit to Lakewood residents, and to say that someone who lives in Westlake could pay the same fee and join their pool, and then join our pool the same fee. I'm not trying to be exclusive. I'm just trying to provide Lakewood residents with value.
Understood. No, just wanted to make sure that I understand what you're suggesting. Any other thoughts on that, Mr. President?
Mr. Chair, I don't know necessarily have thoughts on that in a specific sense. More some, I think, 30,000-foot level comments, some of which may have been mentioned in committee already, and if so, I apologize. One is that I think it was pre-COVID, 3 or 4 years ago at least, that we were debating these fees, and the consensus of council at the time, despite the proposal to raise them, was that with nothing new in the offing, without providing any new product of any kind, that raising our rates didn't make a whole lot of sense, and so we chose not to do that. Plus, the city underwrites whatever the fees don't cover ultimately anyway. My overall overarching thinking, wherever the numbers land, is that this is our biggest bite at the apple as far as looking at these rates, just given the fact that we have such a new product that's here and now, and that perhaps that, along with some kind of advice or planning on how those ought to be looked at annually, because of the upkeep for something so new and big and all of that, might be warranted as well. Where those numbers land, I'll leave it to the committee and the experts, the expert administrator in the room from the schools. But just wanted to make those 2 comments.
Thank you. And certainly now that we have our pool, I think they're going to be certainly the best pools in the region. I think these rates reflect, actually still stand up pretty well, still beat a lot of rates for at least residents for around the region. So that's, I think we're still competitive, providing a lot of value for what it is. Just because we're so low on time, Mr. Bullock, do you have any comments or questions?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Can you just recap the difference between what we're looking at tonight versus last week is?
Sure. The basically what the school district kindly took from council and went and chewed on was that the rate of increase for residents and non-residents should be the same, and that's what they did. So the rate that they raised the amount for the season passes, specifically, they just mirrored that in raising the non-resident rate. So they were the increase was the same in most categories, a little bit more for the top tier and the bottom tier, which is the 60 and over and 3 to 5, but mostly to create that parity in how much increase we were charging. Mr. Baker suggested that we inch those up a little bit more to be just a little more in parity with places like Westlake, maybe another $10 across the board for the season passes. And it seems like at least Mr. Baker and I are in agreement with the individual rates being good as they're proposed here.
So I see in the chart I'm looking at, there's the rate of increase, there's parity for the seasonal pass in the 3 major age categories, but not in the day pass. But I guess it breaks to the favor of the resident in that difference. And so Mr. Baker's concept is to do what to the rates to mirror Westlake and how?
To add an additional $10 to the whole category. So instead of 70, 80, instead of 110, 120, instead of 180, 190, instead of 250, 260, instead of 320, 330.
For the non-resident?
Yeah, through the chair. Basically, the idea being that a resident of Westlake could pay the same price for our Lakewood pool as a non-resident as they could for their own pool. So I'm just providing some stratification in pricing to provide a benefit to Lakewood residents as opposed to a Westlake resident.
Okay, and I appreciate the thoughtful analysis. The other point, that was made to me, which bears, I think, repeating, is that essentially the city owns the pool and hires the school board to operate the pool. And when there's an operating deficit, the city writes a check to the school district at the end of the season to make up that difference. And that's something we've talked about before, but it wasn't top of mind in my deliberations last Monday when we talked about this. So part of what we're doing here is if we recover more fees from the users, then the city's operating deficit check to the school district when on those years in which there are deficits is a smaller subsidy. So that's a philosophy. I mean, the general taxpayer is already paying for capital and maintenance, the build out, whether you use the pools or not. And we all certainly support affordable pool passes in use. I think my family's going to be using this pool a lot these coming summers. But then in terms of the operation category for the staffing and other costs of running it day to day, week to week, month to month, the question is how big of a subsidy. So, I'm persuaded that we can increase it. I guess I'll defer to colleagues who have, more clear thoughts than I do about just what the sweet spot is. Thanks.
Mr. Scheckner?
I tend to agree with Mr. Baker. I see that as the fees are reasonably related to both providing a service and, much like our parking meters, regulating the flow of traffic in and out of the pool and how much our residents get to enjoy it. I do believe that raising the non-resident fees, at least for season passes, would be reasonable, and I would support up to $20. I think sounds reasonable on top of each of the proposed fees there.
Very good. Any other members have thoughts, questions, comments, concerns? Well, I guess we'll get into the actions here in just a second. Mr. Walters, thank you for joining us. Did you have any comments and thoughts about the process or anything you wanted to share with us tonight? I don't think we have any questions for you, unless other members do, but feel free to share. Oh, yeah. John's going to help you there.
Yeah, no real further questions or comments. Just, first of all, I really appreciate the feedback we've had from the mayor and her staff and from council, because I think we ultimately have come up collectively with a pretty solid rate structure that supports the increase in labor, the increase in pool chemicals, and also makes it equitable as far as increases with the non-resident rates. So I just want to let you know I appreciate everybody's input and feedback, and I think at the end we've come up with a pretty good structure. And if council votes to increase that non-resident rate, we certainly can adjust that pretty quickly.
Thank you. Mr. Baker has a question for you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Walter, for taking the time. I know the school board also has a meeting tonight. I was curious if there's a high-level breakdown of like season passes of residents versus non-residents. I know that we're dealing with a different product the past couple summers as opposed to this summer, but
yeah, I don't have that information. I do know that the majority of the daily passes are non-residents, and it's like a 75% resident attendance in the pool, so most of those are season passes. So residents buy the season passes at a far greater clip than the non-residents. Most of the non-residents are daily passes. And we do have some folks that have been here, come in here for a long time that always get season passes. And a lot of it's our senior citizens that take advantage of the pool in the morning hours.
yeah, and I'm aware of the fact that we're training the consumer in a new way. So perhaps with some of the more stratification in the rates, some of the non-residents will lean towards season passes as opposed to daily passes. But I guess we'll see.
Could well be, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
I'm sorry.
to Mr. Council President's point, it was mentioned at the last committee meeting that I think Ms. Kroger-Faber had mentioned that she wanted to look at this again in 5 years, but we could certainly shorten that period to, look at it every year or every couple of years. Makes a lot of sense to me, so. Mr. President?
Just a quick question, and again, perhaps it's already been answered. Is there a new point of sale system contemplated in the pools?
You know what, I'm not aware that we've put one in place. We're still using the punch pad but I know that there has been concerns regarding, non-residents, and we're obviously going to be far more attuned to making sure that the non-residents pay non-resident rates to discourage people from coming in and trying to get in at the cheaper rate.
Sure. Well, then I may at least urge that the schools consider a new system that works well for a new pool.
Yeah, so it makes with the technology now,
Yeah.
can be quicker and easier to get in. I agree.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, thank you to the administrations of both the school district and mayor, welcome mayor, for getting this together. Certainly appreciate just the efficiency with which this was done this time round. And thank you to my colleagues for their input and the process on this. So if there's no further comment on this, I'll go ahead and move that we substitute this current resolution 2023-07 with the version that was worked on between the school districts and myself, the chair. Do you have a second on that? Second. All right, motion and a second.
Clarify a
Sure.
point of order, Mr. Chair. So in addition, you mean you're proposing to substitute, or you're moving to substitute the
Yeah.
new Exhibit A, new version of Exhibit A?
So what we'll do is we'll motion to substitute what's currently listed because it's different than the last version, and then I believe Mr. Baker or yourself can amend, and I'm certainly supportive of whatever action we take there to increase those non-resident rates. So, good question. There's been a motion and a second. Any further comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Noes? Ayes have it. And then I'll entertain other motions.
To the chair, I'll make a motion to raise across the board the non-resident season passes by $20.
I'll second that. Any comment on that? Any comment from council as a whole? Come from the committee? Hearing none. All in favor of that amendment? Aye.
Aye.
And all opposed? Hearing none. The ayes have it. That motion carries. The rates will, the clerk should take a note. We're going to increase those non-resident rates by $10 across the board. So thank you. Oh, excuse me, $20. That was the motion, the movement, and it passed. All right. That, I think, does it for the amendments. Any other amendments to this? I think everyone else is good with it. Again, thanks everyone for your participation. I'll go ahead and move that we recommend this substituted and amended version to the council meeting here tonight for adoption.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any more comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. That's been recommended. I don't think there's any more business before the committee. Let me check real quick. I think we may have minutes from the last meeting. Yeah. So all in favor of approving the minutes from the meeting of February 27th?
So moved.
So moved, second. There being a motion and a second. Any comment? No comments. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Ayes have it. That motion carries. That's it. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.